Last week, Queensland's Chief Health Officer John Gerrard declared a public health alert over the mental well-being of teenagers, and coinciding with the emergence of smartphones and social media, which there has been a lot of discussion on in recent weeks. His comments come a year after alarming data published in his Health of Queenslanders report revealed self-harm hospitalisations for girls aged up to 14 years have more than tripled since 2009. This morning, you've been hearing the alarming story about photos and rankings of girls at Foxwell State Secondary School in Coomera under disturbing sexist categories shared on Instagram. I'm about to introduce you to two Gold Coasters trying to open up the conversation around mental health, and they're aiming to help educate people with a free magazine that's available now in doctors' surgeries, in community centres and at local government agencies. It's called Open Heart. It's free and it covers a range of issues around mental health. It's so important to have these conversations. It was started by local councillor Sean Matthews and graphic designer Amanda Hargreaves, who joined me in the studio this morning. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Amanda, let's start with you. How did the magazine come to be?
Basically, well, first of all, thank you for having us on this morning. But basically, Sean and I met through some networking and business groups and connected really well around mental health, and we had a lot of synergies in our passion for social justice, that sort of thing. So decided to collaborate and say, let's talk about mental health and put it in a magazine and get it out there and make it free, because we wanted it to be something that I guess people weren't financially, there wasn't any financial barriers for them to be able to access that sort of information, and having Sean part of that process was just going to add some extra value so that people could access tools and tips and stuff like that, just because we all face all sorts of stuff every day. And just wanted to put something out there like that for a resource for the community.
So it's a resource for the community. Tell me about some of the articles, for instance, in this latest issue. This is the second issue in May issue. Tell me about some of the content in there, Sean.
Yeah, so there's a lot of articles on mental health stigma and the mental health stigma around the education around mental health and what it is for children and what it is for teenagers, of course, and families. And so it's really to teach the community on how people are looking at mental health as a whole. Removing the stigma is what we want to do, and that's really educating everyone on what's going on for each individual.
Yes.
As a human being, and that's what's part of it. There's a lot of other ones about parenting, and which is very, very important, of course. And teenagers, we're very passionate about the teenager article as well, because we both live with teenagers and very aware of what goes on with teenagers and mental health in particular, and anxiety. So actually that's something that we're going to be looking at for the next magazine, is talking about those sorts of things.
As parents of teenagers and as a counsellor and, producer of this magazine, what is your number one? I know it's probably hard to narrow it down to one tip, but what is, just give us one good one. What is it, your number one tip for, dealing or approaching mental health when you're a parent? How do you have those conversations? What's really important?
Having an open dialogue. So open communication and allowing the children to come to you and understand you and trust, and having that empathy and support for those children, especially boys, girls and boys, but boys don't talk as much as girls, as we all know. So, and I have boys at home. Yes. So that's what actually helps.
Trying to have those conversations. How do you try and foster, though? How do you encourage open conversations if they're not feeling like talking? That's the difficult thing, isn't it?
It is. And that's what it's all about. It's approaching them, understanding what their needs are, and it's individual, really, and understanding that they can be quiet, but you just need to approach them in a way for them, because all teenagers are different. And social media is a big thing for teenagers, and being on their phones is big. And so just to speak to them at their level and understand what their needs are is probably the best advice I could give.
Yeah, the phones are so difficult. It's really difficult one to approach, isn't it? And we regularly speak to a psychologist on the program, Dr. Sher McGillivray, who gives us the advice, be curious, not furious with your children, which is a good tip. Difficult, though, I'm sure, at times. What's been the response, Amanda, to this new resource, to this magazine?
It's actually been overwhelmingly positive. And we set out to do one. We just thought, let's just see what people think. Let's get some feedback and see what the community thinks. And it's just been, can I have 10? Can I have 100? Can I have, So schools, there've been allied health places have been very welcoming to having it in their waiting rooms. Like I said, schools, we've been in talks with the Gold Coast Council as well around community centres, also linking us with other education communities like Bond University, those sorts of things. So, we're getting a lot of people going, there definitely needs to be something like this in the community. And it's really evolving. So the first edition, we're on to obviously now our second one and potentially our third in August, but it's really evolved. So the first one is very different to the second one. I think by the end of the year, I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but we're certainly welcoming contributions and feedback from people to see what the community needs, because that's essentially what it is.
What I love about it is that you can hold it. It's an actual magazine.
Yes.
You can flick through it.
And that's good for mental health too.
Is it? There you go. I like reading the old-fashioned way, with an actual hard copy of a book or a magazine. But obviously young people, though, do get a lot of their information online on their phones. How will you approach that? Will you put some of the content online? Is there a component there? How do you approach it?
Yes, in digital. So we have a digital form on Issue, it's called, and so everyone can access it. And we have a Facebook page, and everyone can access it there too.
Okay, fantastic. And have you found that more people are reading the hard copy or the digital copy?
Oh, it's probably a bit of both, I would say. A lot of people we've met definitely love the hard copy. But digitally, it's obviously much more accessible if you're on the train or you're on the bus or you're sitting at home, that sort of thing. Yeah, you can read it online. But definitely the hard copy, people are like, yes, exactly like you just said. Thank you for a hard copy magazine,
Yes. Do you think there is enough investment in mental health, knowing what we know about just how prevalent the rates of anxiety are amongst young people in the community? Do you think there is enough investment in counselling services, that sort of thing for our young people?
It's a hard question to answer, to be honest, because there is a lot of mental health practitioners out there, but a lot of people don't have the resources and the funds to access those mental health practitioners. People like me, counselors or registered psychologists, they have a lot. They're actually high in prices, so their funds. So this is why we actually did this magazine, because then everyone can access this magazine rather than the people that are falling between the gaps. So that's really why we did this, because I used to work in drug and alcohol, and they really were falling between the cracks, and there wasn't really much that we could do for them. And that's why I started my own business in the first place, because that's what the community needs is people to do things like this, and people need to be educated on it and not just be able to come to a counselor and say, oh, this is my problem. How can you help me? They need to actually see something and understand and empower. It's basically empowering them and educating them.
A fantastic new resource for the community, both a hard copy and a digital copy. It's called Open Heart. Available now. Sean Matthews and Amanda Hargreaves, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.